All right, welcome everyone to the Illuminated Mind podcast. My name is Matthew Brownstein. I'm the founder and lead instructor of the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy, and I'm here with a current student and soon to be graduate, Menica Caravel. Did I say that right?
Yeah, close enough.
Good. Welcome. So glad that you're here with us. We're here because you actually sent me an email talking about some very interesting high strangeness type experiences you had. And we're talking about doing some regressions. And I'm like, there's such cool stuff here. Let's have a podcast interview about it first. So we were talking before about healing and miracles and manifesting, and you did an Akashic record reading for me. So tell us about you and your background, and let's dive into all these cool topics.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks for having me. And just a little plug, I'm just really, really enjoying my experience at your school. And yeah, so what I do is I do hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and I do readings. They're called Akashic record readings. So it's kind of getting into an intuitive place, and then with your permission, pulling information that's relevant to you for your life to
Mhm.
help you. And then I do coaching, and I specialize in what I call deliberate manifesting, which I know is, the world knows manifesting, but I specialize in kind of the intricacies and how to like call into your life what you're desiring.
Mhm. Beautiful. And since you mentioned you do hypnotherapy and you're also in the school, tell us a little bit more about your background. I know you have pieces of the puzzle we were talking about, but you're going through our training because it's like synthesizing, putting it all together. So tell us about your background a bit more.
Yeah, so I have a really, really broad background. I was just sharing with you earlier. I have like kind of I feel like three pillars of my life that are connected to my dharma, like why I feel like I'm here and
Mhm.
what I'm here to share and do. And one is like art and aesthetics. And I actually have some really cool mystical stories about like art activations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then my central pillar is kind of like spirituality, metaphysics, manifesting, all these kinds of things.
Mhm.
And that started from really young age because I was out of body traveler until the age of 30, like nightly, every night. I
Mhm.
finally learned how to manage my energy and get like grounded and stuff.
Wow.
And that was like a huge part. So the spiritual component of my life and my work is like a huge part. You
Mhm.
know, it's not like maybe there's different kinds of hypnotherapy, right? Different levels of hypnotherapy. So I'm definitely more on the like kind of spiritual metaphysical side, I think, of that department. Mhm.
Yeah, nice. So even though it's still in places we can go, you mentioned out of body experiences. I've had those mostly my 20s and 30s. So talking about mystical experience, has your experience been that those, you said you got more grounded, that those faded out at some point? So let's talk about, yeah, mystical experience, but also out of body experiences. And did those stop for you in your 30s? That kind
No, not at all. I mean, if I create the conditions for it, I'll be out of my body in a second. It's just like my natural state.
yeah.
Uh, we could dive into why I think that is. I think it's
Mhm.
kind of curious, like I was young. I think children do this anyway.
Mhm.
I think some of us, we are still between worlds for longer than others.
Mhm.
I think some start to naturally start to select the physical realm and start to like not see the rest as much.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like life causes you to move in that direction. So for me, I think because I had a lot of kind of the childhood, my home environment was not good, but there
Mhm.
was a lot of like fighting and trauma and like a lot of like stuff between the parents. So it was very stressful for me from young age.
Mhm.
And I'm already kind of a very sensitive being. So I think I was also just leaving. I think
Yeah.
that's also made it might have been the reason. I think part of it from what has come through in hypnotherapy and from my guides, it's both. It was, every the chicken and egg arise at the same time. So it was like part of it was my environment. I'm leaving. Part of it
Mhm.
was my health. My digestion wasn't very good. I was having a
Mhm.
lot of health issues. And so that also ties really into OBs for people who are really into OBs. What you consume, the kind of
Mhm.
sleep you get, all these things feed into that. So that was also key. And then also, I think my frequency, like my upper chakras, I don't know if this language works for
That's
people, but
cool. Yeah.
my upper chakras were kind of blown out, like from young
Mhm.
age. I'm seeing a lot, I'm feeling a lot, but I'm not grounded in this reality. I'm flying around like 24/7.
Mhm.
So it's not that they cut down. I finally learned how to ground. I started doing a lot of qigong. I started taking electrolytes like magnesium.
Mhm.
When you're like nutrition's a really huge part for me.
Mhm.
I think we both share like the mind and the consciousness is the root where you go
Mhm.
to solve all things. But I really subscribe to, we are mind, body, spirit complexes. And in this environment, everything helps, like sunshine, grounding, good food. You need the body to be functioning well for everything else to be, working cohesively.
Hmm.
So anyway, that was kind of a really long unwrap, but basically I think my OBs were from this reason, and now they can come back anytime. I take things sometimes just to sleep so I can get through the night.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily want to be like traveling around all the time. I want to be grounded here more. That's changed
Sure.
a lot. When I was younger, all I wanted to do was be out there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And as you get older too, just you got to pay the bills. You want to have a career, and things start
Yeah.
to get a little more serious at some point. Yet I hear, and I know for me, spirituality has been what's motivating it for you, right? That's you were talking about like good divine guidance and just knowing what to do from any place, and even the creating manifesting theme that you do that from that higher place. So, how has the spirituality guided your journey, especially when it comes to healing?
That's like so broad. Um,
Yeah.
can I answer it slightly differently?
Yes.
Obviously, that's the best I can do. Uh, how is my spirituality? Say the question one more time.
Yeah, how spirituality motivated your journey in healing? Some people, they might be sick, but they go to a doctor. You have been leaving your body and tapped into higher wisdom, and that seems to be what's motivated your journey.
That's perfect. Okay, so now I know how to tie it together. So I was sharing earlier how I had a lot of health issues. I was born with really severe eczema and asthma.
Mm,
So, and maybe we can dive into some of the subtleties of those kinds of energies,
mm,
uh, at least how they showed up for me. Everyone's unique. But these things showed up in me. And so from young age, I'm having these like, I'm very constricted. When you have asthma, it's like you're suffocating in your body. Everything is irritated, everything's very uncomfortable. So I
mm,
think it was really interesting because I was a very sensitive person and I had all these very sensitive kind of issues with my body.
mm,
And so what happened was I was doing a lot of allopathic stuff. Obviously family took me to the doctor, steroids, all those kinds of things. And I
mhm,
almost died several times actually. I don't remember if I had NDEs during those, but I did.
mhm,
I was rushed to the hospital and resuscitated like several times from asthma.
mhm,
And so what started to happen, the healing became spiritual, I'd say after around 16 years old,
mm,
because my first healing happened. I was 16 and I, well, this was with the substance. Okay, it was with LSD, but I experienced such freedom when I was 16. I had taken this thing. It's not even like the experience was anything nuts. I like was at home. I ended up watching Back to the Future. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I watched the sunset rise, but there was just this moment. I remember watching the sunset, and my friends were all over. We had a big party or whatever. I was 16, and the sun was rising. There was just this moment, and it was like so serene, and I hadn't been meditating at this point. I started a few years later, but the quietness and the stillness and the lightness, and I just
mhm,
felt so myself. Like I didn't even know this was me, but I was like this, and I
uh,
never had asthma again.
beautiful.
So I
Hmm.
had a core state healing because it was just like a return to freedom. And of course, life was supporting me in that. I got my car, and when you're 16, you have a lot more freedom. But
Sure.
I thought it was really interesting. So that's when I first started to make these connections.
Mm.
I thought it was interesting. I didn't understand anything deeper, but I just was like, that's really weird.
But by tapping into that inner quiet, that inner peace, the core state, as you call it, and that's the thought that was in my head. I'm like, oh, you made it into the core state, and you saw that that state heals pretty much whatever you're dealing with. So you had that experience. So there's a great answer to my question: how has spirituality motivated your healing journey? It was by tapping into spirit, essentially, that you were healed of that condition.
It is, but I will say it's not always that simple because a lot of those conditions, and I only showed those two things, but I told you I was born with many of these ailments.
Um,
And some things took me decades because I found that I have to work with the environment too. For me,
mhm,
it wasn't just core state. There's certain things I have to do because maybe, I don't know, maybe this is the body I have, or maybe I'll heal it eventually 100%, or maybe it's just part of my destiny and dharma, so I can learn to work within this framework. But like I mentioned earlier, like sunshine was so huge for eczema for
mhm,
me. Taking out gluten out of my diet was what finally like healed my skin.
huh,
It was complementary. It was
sure.
like synergistic. So some things, yeah, sure. Maybe I'll share a story in a little bit if you'll ask me about like healing I had in a dream
Mhm.
and I asked for it. But then some things, like my shoulder has taken me, it's finally getting better, but it's been like a year, the energetic and the physical together has taken me like a year, and it might even take me longer. I don't know if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Oh, sure, sure. I couldn't agree more that we're approaching it holistically, right? That it's not only that, yeah, this is the Illuminated Mind podcast. So I always try to take this as deep as possible,
Of
right?
course.
The value of spirit, the value of the inner peace and how that affects your body. And, in our school, a lot of our protocols pretty much always guide in through the core transformation process into the core state. The kind of hidden agenda to any hypnotherapy session in our model is bring the client to peace, love, joy, bliss, oneness, and their inner guidance. And so, yeah, just honoring the immense value of that. But of course, sunshine and nutrition and, yeah, all the other things we have to do to learn how to live in harmony with our environment. But yeah, go ahead, go deeper into it. You're going to tell a story.
Well, this just reminded me of I'm going to share a really mystical experience, probably one of the most mystical of my life, but only because I want to just share why I think all this stuff and it all works together. Why it's
Mhm,
not just like anything can be a portal.
mhm,
So in 2021, it was the New Year's between 2020 and 2021, so December 31st, 2020. And as you know, it was pandemic. And so
mhm,
I went out with my partner at the time to the desert and whatever, we had a small gathering, fire, some music, whatever. And at midnight, I didn't even realize it was midnight. I mean, I probably would have stayed with the group, but I ended up walking out into the desert and I looked up, it was a full moon the night before, I think
mhm,
like December 29th or 30th. So it was almost fully full. And I looked up in the night sky, and just like that, my consciousness shifted. I've had this happen a few times in my life, but this was probably one of the most profound for me. And all of a sudden, my consciousness expanded, which happens in meditation, and I was sun gazing, all these things would happen. But this is what I think people call STE, like a spiritually transformative experience, like an NDE
mhm,
level,
mhm,
because my consciousness shifted, and all of a sudden, I became the planet. I
mhm,
was Earth consciousness, not
mhm,
just intellectually. I was,
uh-huh.
and I was connected to. I don't even know if I was all of Gaia. I was all of Gaia that was within my awareness,
Okay.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I was connected to every tree,
Mhm,
every photon, every
mhm,
like piece of dust,
mhm,
every human being. I can't even explain it. And it
mhm,
wasn't like a cognitive intellectual experience, of course. It was just full being.
mhm,
And everything was live. Everything was living. It didn't matter if it was a plastic container. A plastic container was made of all these living
mhm,
conscious entities, and together they were very aware that they were a plastic bottle. And there
mhm,
was just this awareness all throughout the whole entire experience. And that's when I had another realization. I was like, oh my gosh. And I sun gazed for years before this. So it's like
mhm,
interesting. I was having more understanding. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not sunshine, it's pure love and pure
mhm,
well being and information. It's information and pure love.
uh-huh.
That's what it is, the whole thing. And it's like people were suffering and I was aware of it, but it was nothing compared to the love. Nothing. It was like,
Okay.
not to say that their suffering wasn't real. I mean, it
Mhm,
is. It was just complete compassion, complete understanding, complete no worries. I got you. I don't know. I can't even like put it into words. But so when I share, when I share this part about, why the mind body spirit complex, it's also important because
mhm,
the whole thing is living. The whole thing is love. I have
mhm,
to get the sunshine. Why do we need sunshine? It's not vitamin D, just vitamin D, you
mhm,
know?
right.
It's like it's the love and the information. It's like super
Mhm.
subtle. And sorry, got really passionate about that.
No, no, I want you to passion out. This is why we're
Yeah.
here. I mean, it's what I live for. It's really what started my journey with something very similar, as because we talked about before I started. When I was 19, my first mystical experience was basically what you're describing. You get out of your conscious mind, it's just this complete shift, and everything is light and everything is love, and you are that, and you know that you're not perceiving the entire universe, but like you said, what you're aware of is you, right? And my experience of that is it leads to very deep compassion because you mentioned you can't talk about what you did and not acknowledge that there's suffering, right? You're like, their love is what's underneath it all, but there is suffering. So how does that motivate you when it comes to being a healer, being in the path of hypnotherapy and getting out there to help others? Would you say that it is that sense of oneness that's a big part of the motivating factor that gives you the passion to get out there and do the work?
To do this work, well, I do it because I like it and I'm a human being and I need to live and have a career.
Okay,
Uh,
fair enough.
I mean, like, yeah, practically, but of all the work that I could do, like these three
Mhm.
pillars are where I'm happy. It's a labor of love.
Gotcha.
These three areas.
That's beautiful. Good answer. So I know somebody once said to me, I was asking, long story short, somebody for advice. He goes, I can't really give you an answer to that question, but let me tell you this. I was pretty young. He goes, if you don't dedicate yourself to a career in metaphysics, you will not be happy. And that's kind of what I heard you saying there. It's like, yeah, the spirituality is what motivates me in my life and the mission. At the same time, I wouldn't be in a profession that I didn't love. And so you love this, but it's clearly based on your deeper realizations, right? Like that's what makes you happy because it's when you sit down with your client, you're guiding them into that peace and love and bliss. I mean, what could be better, right? A life dedicated to helping others to find that themselves.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. Tell us more about your three pillars. You mentioned their arts and aesthetics, spirituality, and healing. Take us down any one of those rabbit holes.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I don't know. My mind keeps going to there, so I'm going to share it. It's not related in the direction I wanted to go in, but so in it was 2004. This is about art and just like the power, how everything is a portal. Like I believe everything is a portal. Like
Mm,
everything is a portal to God. Everything.
mm,
It
mm,
doesn't matter if it's your pillow, it's your bed, it's the quanta in your bed, it's the art, it's the this, it's that, it's the relationship. Because the whole thing is living,
mhm,
all one with just many
mhm,
faces, in my experience. So in 2004, I'm at the Uffizi in Italy. I was there with my mom. Used to travel a lot together. And I was sitting in front of very famous, probably one of the most famous paintings on the planet, The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli. And I had never seen it before. And it was back in the day when museum, I don't know, for some reason the museum wasn't very busy that day. I'm sure now I've heard they have like so many visitors, you can't even like get into a room. And but this
mm,
time, for some reason, maybe it was like the stars aligned, but it was like pretty open. And I sat there, I was transfixed by this painting for hours,
mhm.
like hours. I remember I even told my mom, I said, just go.
Yeah.
And I never understood what was happening because it's not even
Mhm,
like a lot of physical sensations or anything like that, but there was just something. I was transfixed. Something was happening in me and
mhm,
I didn't know what it was, but it was amazing. And then the next day, or maybe it was the same day, second half of the day, I go out and I see, I think it was Cellini. I'm pretty sure it's Benvenuto Cellini's. Like he's got a sculpture of, I think it's Perseus. It's a very sexy sculpture of Perseus. Anyway, absolutely same thing happened. I show up in front of this thing and I'm just transfixed. I'm literally standing there like the statue for hours. I don't know what's happening to me. Cut to, several years later, I'm painting. I've gotten into painting and stuff like that. It's an interesting story
mhm,
how that manifested, but save it for another time.
mhm,
And yeah, and I remember when I first started like painting and doing art, I've worked a lot in the arts, mostly media, graphic design, music, like a lot of the different fields, but not fine arts, painting.
mhm,
And when I started, I remember when I had my full moment of like coming to my like what I truly, truly wanted in my deepest and deepest of hearts.
mhm,
Like, man, whatever happened to me when I saw that work,
mhm,
I want to share that with others. I still don't
mhm,
even know what happened. I don't even feel like it's not like I could check something on a board and be like, oh, I'm so much happier now. It wasn't
mhm,
like that. And then few years later, I'm working on this painting called Ancient Earthling. And I was having, a little bit of a self-conscious kind of sad moment, like, oh, I'm such an art in the artist closet. And most of my friends are like amazing artists. A lot of them are kind of famous professionals and stuff. And I was
mhm,
like, man, I'm so, I'm feeling down about myself. And I get this download. I'm clairaudient. So that started at a young age also. I think because I was in all those OBEs and I was so alone. Alone
mhm,
meaning like I had friends, like Indian friends and, a little bit of family friends, but there was no one I could talk to, if I
mhm.
didn't want to end up in the loony bin.
Sure.
So anyway, I got sidetracked. Before I mentioned the OBs, what was I talking about?
Well, the two glimpses of art, the Venus and
Yeah,
Perseus.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2014, I'm painting. I was feeling down and I got this download. It said, listen to Seth.
Uh-huh.
I'm a big, big fan. I consider
Mhm,
Seth the Seth from the Seth material, channeled
mhm,
by Jane Robertson. He's like one of my mentors.
Uh-huh.
So much I've learned from Seth. Anyway, so I click on the first video. I've never heard Seth speak. I've only read all the books. I don't know about the videos. I've actually never had seen him. And I click on the first video, and Jane Roberts is channeling Seth.
Yeah.
And she's speaking to her husband, Robert Butts, who's the translator for the Seth material. And Seth says to Robert Butts, he's like, Seth, or he says, Robert, when you paint from that place and others, their eyes settle, they are taken to their own multidimensional space. Like it is a portal for them. That's what art does. And, you know, it was so crazy. I just got the download, heard the thing. It was a 2-minute video. And I was like, oh, that's why I paint. This is what's going on.
Hmm.
And then just as a small adjunct, this is not art related, but this activation or whatever happened in this following experience I'm going to share is so close to what happened with art. So in 2016 or so, I'm at Horseshoe Bend, which is near like Antelope Canyon. It's like where the 4 states are. What is it? Utah, New Mexico. Anyway, it's in the Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a really famous place for people to see. It's where the Colorado River does a full 180.
Okay.
It's very, very beautiful. And I almost didn't go because you got Zion there, you got Antelope Canyon, there's a bunch of other places. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go all the way. But I was like, okay, I'll go. It's like 45 minutes. So I drove, tons of people. I mean, it's just like booked. It's so not my scene, you know, like go see a place with like 1,000 people. It's like, I'm so sensitive sometimes. I sometimes it's a little overwhelming. Like when I get feeling all these things. Anyway, so I'm standing there. I go to the front, tons of people. I go off to kind of a side where there's not as many people. And then I just look like I'm looking at art. Obviously, it's a beautiful, beautiful environment. And something starts, same thing, kind of like, but this was crazy. I was drinking through my eyes. My eyes were drinking. I could feel energy going into my eyeballs and swirling around my body. It was mind blowing. And I was like, the reason I share the story with the art is because I was like, wow, it's the same thing. It's like the frequencies and the energies from this place. It's like somehow it's what I needed. And it's like, feels really good. You know, it felt very effervescent, like really refreshing. And actual physical sensations. I was having physical sensations.
I hear that with the art and with the experience in the Four Corners area. Then basically, I hear saying everything is a portal, like everything is a portal to the divine. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think want our listener to really get something out of this. So, like, what's in it for the listener? How did they tap into that? It's not always that we come across the most beautiful art or get to be in some of the most beautiful places in the country, but you said anything is a portal to that.
I used to get stoned and like back when I was like smoking a bunch of marijuana, and I would just like have yoga with my chocolate peanut butter granola. Like seriously, like before goat yoga or whatever the yoga is about, all these yogas, I called it granola yoga. I would just sit there and I would eat my whole thing would be like completely immersed in this experience of what's going on in my mouth right now. Like me and the granola, like the granola is living, I'm living, and we're both like making love right now. Like,
Beautiful.
is that a little too weird?
No. It's on. I mean, God is love. So when you're in touch with that, it's like love is making love with love through anything in any given moment. So I hear you talk. You know, we talked a little before about ayahuasca. You mentioned acid. You mentioned marijuana, and you know that's all cool. And at the same time, if anything is a portal, just your granola. So what I'm hearing is. And even when you're in front of that art, when you're just enthralled in the moment, when you're enthralled in beauty, when you who are love meets that which is right in front of you, which is love. And to me, that's really just what samadhi, you know, the deep yogic meditative word for just total oneness. It can happen with your eyes open, like you're saying, like you're the energy of life, you're drinking it in through your eyes. I just hear you talking about a portal in the sense of you're totally enthralled in any given moment. Would you say, is that what's happening?
Uh, I
Without
think
words?
I toggle between 2 states. I toggle between a witness state and a flow state. I try to toggle between the two. And then sometimes, you know, I get really human-y and I get caught in my own stuff and lose track of what's going on in my mind stream.
Sure.
But yeah, I try to for the most part. You know, I've been on this, I got into meditation at 19. It was also kind of through a spiritual experience like you. So I've been working with my mind. I feel like I can't say for everybody what everyone else's dharma is, but for me, I feel God has very much said to me, you don't actually have to do anything here on earth. We just want you to be here. Just you being here is all you need to do. you can actually do anything that you want to, as long as it's like not against your dharma, but you can do anything that you want to do. You have complete freedom. I feel like that. I've been given like a lot of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm losing my track again. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
My mind just went into like two places. Yeah. So I toggled between these two places, and I felt like God was like, you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. We want you to know your power. You can manifest whatever you want in this life. Again, as long as it's not going against your dharma for too long. You can still even go against your dharma for some time, but we're going to bring you back on track because you came here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as part of your power, because you're a God's representative, you're literally like the ambassador, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
the front for God here.
Sure.
Um, God's child doesn't throw a temper tantrum when they don't get what they want. There's just a stability and equanimity, a
Yeah.
peace and a patience.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong, if you're having a fit and freaking out, I've had so many temper tantrums, like
Mm-hmm.
it's probably just like, oh, Monica's on the line,
Sure.
But that's what my thing has been. Like for spiritually, it's been like focusing on this, knowing my power. I can create whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay if I don't, because I'm okay anyway. It's like the core state. It's like everything is contained within it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, manifest whatever you're inspired to, right? But it's okay. Like in between, it's still good,
Right. Beautiful.
Like finding it's okay here. Even if life is really hard, I've been in traumatic situations. I shared a little bit in my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's like until you manifest a change, however that happens, you still have to act with grace and love until then. Like that's like a little bit of training. I feel like that's here.
Sure. Yeah. Training to either get back into the witness state or the flow state, but get back into who you truly are. However, I hear you saying you can get caught up in the humanness. You could feel like you even lost track, yet nothing really changes your dharma, your function, your purpose, right? And of course, in Miracles, it basically says this, fill in the blank for whatever this is, this cannot change my function. This cannot change my purpose. This does not change my dharma. Even though I'm upset, divinity is still moving along perfectly in the flow state, right? A Course in Miracles says something like, even when you're caught up in your ego and some nightmare, your real life is continuing on all on its own. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like, is that, are we on
Yeah,
speaking
no,
the same language?
I love what you just said. I think that I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in all of
Mhm.
my, if I could share this with anybody, I'd share it right now. I will. I'll share it right now.
Yeah.
Just it's totally okay to be feeling whatever you're feeling. Like it's so justified and valid.
Mhm.
If it wasn't, you wouldn't feel the way you do. Like you feel the way you feel. It's okay. It doesn't
Right.
mean you don't want to talk yourself out into something more constructive.
Sure.
That's one thing. Just I no longer, to the best of my ability, like just genuinely,
Hmm.
I just genuinely don't get hard on myself about anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even if I do bad, even if I could have done better, even if I could have done better and I still chose not to, like
Mhm.
it's the best I had. And like it's just that's what my father taught me in 2000. Maybe we could talk about my dad now. In 2009, my
Uh-huh.
forgiveness experience.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, happy to go into forgiveness and miracles and relationships. I know we had those basic talking points, so go there.
Yeah, it dovetails kind of nicely because my father, I shared a little, we had a little bit of it was a traumatic childhood. Okay. There was a lot of divorce, child custody battles, there was some abuse, all these kinds of things.
Mm.
And so I didn't really have much love for my dad.
Mhm.
He died in 2002. And of course it's sad when your father dies, but I didn't feel that much because we had such a tumultuous relationship.
Mhm.
And I always say to him, I was like, I wish we could just be friends. But this
Mhm.
dynamic of like you being this like kind of controlling dad and me being such a
Mhm.
free wild spirit is like it
Yeah.
just doesn't work.
Mhm.
So anyway, in 2009, and I hadn't really thought about my dad a lot. I didn't really like cry and like it was very compartmentalized. I think
Mhm.
in those days I was kind of like what I call my early yogi days.
Mhm.
I was doing a lot of spiritual bypassing because I
Mhm.
needed to. I just needed to feel really good. So I would
Mhm.
just go into these transcendent samadhi like states.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really addressing anything here because I didn't even understand. I
Uh-huh.
didn't even know. Like, so I'm just going and I'm getting blissed out. And then in 2009, this is where the embodiment started happening. So my father, he visits me 7 years after he passed. I'm in a deep meditation. I was in Australia at the time.
Mhm.
And with some other yogis. And in the evening meditation, I must have been having a very, very powerful experience because something happened and all of a sudden again, things switched.
Mm.
And I'm in like kind of like astral realm, kind of moonlit kind of vibes. And I have a guide there dressed in like white. And then my father is there, like crystal clear, totally there. And I know I'm like not here. I know like I'm somehow I've shifted and I'm in another dimension or something. Anyway, my first thought was, what are you doing here? I'm not a fan, like what the heck? But my guide said to me, this is for you. Please have an open mind. And of course, anytime my guide says something like that, I'm like all ears. So I'm like, okay, sure. And I look at my dad, I'm like, okay, what do you want? I wasn't very affectionate, but I was like, what do you want? And he goes, I'll be succinct. I'm so sorry for the way I treated you and your mother in that lifetime. I didn't have the knowledge or the power to do better at the time. And this phrase has been like, seared in my retina or like in my third eye because it took me a long time to unpack that. It's always that from the human perspective, in my experience. I mean, there's so much I don't know yet, but from what I do know, it's always about that. It's like they don't have the knowledge or the power to make the change. They don't have the understanding, and then they don't have the resources to make that change. So anyway, he did that. And then I think the real healing came. My guide said, okay, now cut this cord between you and your father. And I was like, with pleasure. This is like an NLP technique I learned later, cutting the cords and all this stuff, but I didn't know it at the time. Hands me these golden shears and I'm like, sure, like really kind of snarky. And the shears stopped about, a thread's hair away from the silvery thread between me and my father that's connecting me and my father. And then in that moment, it became very multidimensional. Now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing me and my father in countless lives. Countless. I don't even know how many. I can't see the bodies, but I know all the relationships. Friends, strangers, lovers, even. Like we're married, we did everything together. Me and this team player. And then automatically there was forgiveness because I said, oh my God, we go so far back. Yeah. And I knew that with my dad. I knew we had that connection. I'd say to him, I wish we were friends. Like, why? Yeah. But I was just so unhappy with this like dynamic that we had. Anyway, so I forgave. And then the next day, I woke up with a lot of pain in the back of my heart. It actually felt like a knife had been jammed in there. I could barely breathe. It was very painful. I barely made it to a class that I was in for myofascial work. And there were some psychics there. And they said to me, one of them, she said, oh my gosh, Manika, are you okay? Like right when I walked in the door, she's like, I can see. She's like, is it okay? And she's like, I can see rage and bitterness flying out the back of your spine. And she even like gave whatever, like the thoracic or whatever the location was. And she goes, it'll be gone in a couple days. Like you'll feel better in a couple days. And she was right. In a couple days, all the pain and all the stuff went away. And then miracles started. Like crazy miracles. This is less health. There was some health stuff. Maybe it was health because that year was the year I finally got grounded and stopped flying out of my body uncontrollably. Like it's not that it just happened automatically, like with my asthma and the core state experience. It was like a natural bridge of events unfolded. And it was like, oh, you need magnesium. Okay. You need to stop drinking caffeine. Okay. Stop taking naps in the afternoon. Because that was like sending me off. So I just had to adjust certain things. But anyway, going back to my dad, that was like one of the miracles, I guess. And then also mostly people, like people from my childhood, people from my college days, people had thrown me under the bus for no reason. I never understood why, apologizing to me. I'd say about, I don't know how many now, I don't remember, but like, it was like about a dozen or something like that. It was very notable. And I was off the grid in those days. I had been off the grid for about 3 years. So very few people knew where I was. The pinnacle was, I went to India a few months later, and I'm at an ashram meditating. It's like a world meditation hour. It was a Sunday evening. And it's true, some of my family does frequent these places. So it's not like insane, but it was kind of crazy because I left that meditation. This is again, just a few weeks after, maybe less than 2 months after this experience, in the back of the hall. And it's like there's like 1,000 people. It was 1,000-seat hall. My aunt, my dad's sister, is sitting there. And she was not very nice to me when I was little. I mean, she was nice, like meaning, but you know how people don't know what they're doing. So there was a lot of stuff that was really kind of, I never forgot. It really had hurt me from very young age. And she sat in the back and she comes up to me and she goes, Manika, I've been wanting to speak to you. I got a touching and I've been coming here for 2 weeks waiting for you. I knew you'd be coming. She's
Mm.
known me for like 60 years. She's super psychic.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't mean she's not flawed. Like, again, I
Yeah.
was talking
Sure.
about like this embodiment experience, which I'm going to get to in a second.
Mm.
And she goes, I just wanted to say, I'm so sorry for all those things that I said to you when you were younger. I'm
Hmm.
so sorry. And I was like, yeah, of course, it's water on the bridge. And
Yeah.
that was just an example. And so many other things happen. I mean, it's just like life just started to catch up. Like I said, the OBs got better. I think that was the year I finally figured out gluten was like an issue for me for
Mhm.
like to kind of just like finish that issue I had with like dermatitis and eczema and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So it was just crazy. And it was all just like about forget it, just the energy started to flow and my heart started to open. And
Hmm.
honestly, it's been a process over 15 years. And as the energy has flown and there's like less blocks and less like grudges and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
my psychic gifts, which obviously they were there, we all have them. And for me,
Hmm.
it's very active, you know, obviously OBs, clear audience, all that stuff. But then my intuition just became so much clearer.
Hmm.
I could start doing, you know, like Akashic record readings.
Yeah.
You know, it's been very slow. It's been like, you know, more and more and more and more.
A lifetime,
Yeah.
lifetime over decades. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful with your father and the visit, the guide there and your father there. But really, the essence of it was understanding and forgiveness, cutting the cord, just letting go. Essentially, and of course, miracles language again of your old perceptions of what how the relationship was in a sense what you were projecting onto him, and then, yeah, it took some residual time, I hear, for the pain in the back of your heart to let go of grievances and whatnot. But really, through the miracle of forgiveness, life, well, basically, you enter back into the flow state in a deeper level, right? You're not holding on to things that keep you from being in the Dharma, from being in the now, from being truly back in a space of love again. Do you feel like it was really the forgiveness that was the essence of all that?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think the soul is not meant to have, I mean, it's different. We're having human experience for these experiences. We're creating these environments of
Right.
all this contrast and all this pain and suffering so that we can
Mhm.
rebound off of it and break through. That's
Uh-huh.
more, I think, I can't say for everyone. Again, these are just the insights I've gotten and I've
Mm.
seen, like my guides have shared with me. It's so exciting for spirit to break through.
Yeah.
Like it's so exciting to be like so downtrodden and then
Hmm.
to have this epiphany and this huge breakthrough and then be full, you know, it's like that change because we don't get that on the other side.
Hmm.
So I think they're so into these kinds of
Yeah.
things. So I think that really it's about the energy flows when there's no obstructions.
Hmm.
There's obstructions when you have a grudge, when you have any kind of dislike. There's nothing wrong with it, but any degree of it is going to create an obstruction in
Yes.
your mind body spirit complex and the flow, you know,
Hmm.
all
Totally.
these emotions, all these they're all vibrations, all these things. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, I'm just sharing for audience,
But
everyone, but
sure.
all of these vibrations and frequencies, if they're not in the energy of neutrality, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is unconditional love, like true neutrality is unconditional love. So if you're not in this kind of like area, then there's going to be, you know, instead of the energy going straight down from, you know, heart to feet, you got to make like
Hmm.
10 right turns. So
Hmm.
there's like
Right.
a lot of distortion happening.
Yeah, and any grievance essentially blocks that, right?
Mhm.
And then forgiveness is always what's needed to return. You used the term just now and something when we were talking before about, well, before you said creating environments to express your fullness. So when we forgive, when we clear the grievances, when we're back in the flow state, we're in the seat of the witness, we're back into that space of love. I know in the book Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh says, "Is life a school?" And God is like, "No." And he said, "Okay, well, what is it then?" And that higher, wiser voice says, "It's not a school because when I created you, I gave you everything you needed. Nothing was lacking. So there's no school because there's no lack, there's nothing to learn." And Neil Donald Walsh said, "Then what is it then?" And the higher, wiser voice, God, said, "You're here to recreate yourself in the highest, most glorious way you can imagine." And yet,
Mhm.
in contrast, we could say, okay, I don't want that. What do I want? So I wonder if you could, as we're getting towards the end of time, talk to us about expressing your fullness in that sense, creating yourself in the highest, most beautiful way you could imagine.
Yeah, I'll share with my what my guides have shared with me, and also it's been shared by a lot of channels. But I really, really feel like it's the way. I do feel like I'm a very unique individual. I don't know how other human beings do what they don't love.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I would rather be starving, honestly. I'd probably give up meals than have to do something that didn't fulfill my heart.
Sure.
So I feel like with manifesting and living here, the key
Mhm.
is to follow what feels good. Like,
Mhm.
not, of course, you have to be constructive. That's why we have intellect to decide, okay, do I really need to go party and do all that stuff to feel
Sure.
good? Or, so I'm saying constructively feeling good. I think the key is to really follow what genuinely fills your heart, like
Yeah.
genuinely lights you up, even in that moment. Like,
Hmm.
this is how I try to structure my life. I
Hmm.
try, obviously we have to make appointments and stuff. I don't know what I'm going to be feeling, but I feel like if you follow that flow and if
Hmm.
you understand the metaphysics of it, or at least in my paradigm that I subscribe to,
Yeah.
metaphysics say when you resonate in the same
Mhm.
vibration, like if you feel like you have that which you're calling in, it's
Yeah.
yours.
Uh-huh.
Alternatively, you may not even feel the vibration, but you know it, and that will take you to that vibration eventually
Ah,
with time.
yeah.
Or alternatively, I think nature supports all of us in all of our different seasons. There's seasons where I've been a human doer and I've been like a bull in a china shop, and
Hmm.
spirit supported me when I was like that. Now I'm very much like kind of like lazy hermit. And I'm supported like that. When God says you don't even have to make effort. You just be neutral, just be chill and just
Hmm.
watch. All the things
Yeah.
will come up. So I don't remember what your original question was, but
Yeah.
everything's a portal. We're
Mhm.
supported in all ways. I would just, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about going to the highest, but essentially, I love how you're bringing it to essentially, of course, Miracle says, I need do nothing. You're talking very much Abraham Hicks too about coming into vibrational alignment with what you're wanting. And really, what do you want? Peace, love, joy, bliss, oneness. So just sit there and tap into it, right? And then you just keep manifesting more of it, and it becomes effortless instead of the bull in the china shop, which is all fine. I love your model of it's all good, it's all fine. You can feel bad, it's fine, right? But you're really saying trust your joy, follow your bliss, right? Just why would you want to live a life where like all your chakras need to be open, right? Like you wouldn't want to do something that closes down your energy. So just finding essentially what feels good. It's become my life motto too, is really just core transformation. And the metaphor there or the question we ask is what would feel better? What would feel better? Why would you ever live your life based on, well, what would feel worse? What would feel worse, right? It's just
But
yeah.
yeah, when we're
I
in
just,
that mindset, because I've had a lot of depression in my life,
mhm.
so I know what it's like to be in that mind. I mean, I feel like the reason I've been in all these states is so I can help people now. Now I understand. And
Sure.
I understand now how, yeah. And when you're in those states though, it's more about like taking your foot off the pedal. I don't try to feel better if I'm like
Mhm.
not feeling well.
Sure.
It's like too much effort.
Yeah.
But just to be okay, even if you're not depressed, like whatever's going on, I would say try this. It really works for me, and I'm a pretty volatile
Mm.
person. I would say be okay with whatever is like
Yeah.
that. If you're okay, even if you're pissed off, even if you have a
Mhm.
huge thing with somebody or you're super stressed out, if you can be okay with that,
Mhm.
it's like somehow that releases all the stress. It's like acceptance. It's
Yeah.
just stop forcing, stop fighting what is. If we
Yeah.
just accept, we don't have to be in core state. I don't
Mhm.
even go into mystical, super high peak states anymore. I go into just like, honestly, I just go into the void. That's like my deal
Yeah.
nowadays.
Sure.
I go into the
Yeah.
void more than I go into peak experiences. It's too much stimulation for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, so I
Hmm.
would say, yeah, if I could share with anybody, if they're ever having a hard time, and we're all human, we all like experience all sorts of stuff that's going to like trigger
Hmm.
us or whatever. I think we're going to keep spiraling until we leave our bodies. I don't know.
Hmm.
I could be wrong. But I would just say, be okay with what you're feeling. Like there's nothing wrong with you. I just
Hmm.
wish somebody had told me that like over and over. I mean, they probably, my guides probably were, but I just wasn't listening. Like
Hmm.
it's okay. You
Yeah.
don't have to be some perfect kind of Buddha or something like that.
Hmm.
It's all right. You're a human. But
Yeah.
you don't want to sit like this. You want to just constructively start to.
Right.
Oh, I want to share one more thing before we leave
Yeah.
on this thing about manifesting and like positive thinking and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I would say, and kind of in the words of Bashar, we don't always get what we want, but we always get what we need.
Hmm.
But by feeling good and directing our thoughts, you're guaranteed to feel better. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe the manifestation's not going to come, but
Hmm.
one manifestation that will definitely come, if you answer the call, you get an inspiration. Oh, I want this, I want that, and you line up with it in whatever way, you're going
Hmm.
to feel better. And I just think of it as like it behooves us to think in these kinds of ways, even if we don't understand it, even if it just feels better. And then
Yeah.
chances are you are going to have all the things that you're calling in.
Yes. Beautiful. I love what you're saying because essentially all you have to do is put your attention on it. And I know you're gifted when it comes to, and gifted in the sense that everybody has these gifts, but you're clairvoyant, clairaudient, right? You tap into Akashic records. So my experience is to get more psychic, you put your attention on psychics, like you hang out with them. And I just love the message of what you're saying. So as we're putting our attention on you, is essentially you're fine just as you are. It's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to be going through what you're going through. And yet Rumi said, don't turn towards darkness. I tell you, suns exist. And I hear it's acknowledging there are glorious states we can tap into. And you say, you're not even trying for like super high. It's just like the void. My experience is that's just really when you just empty yourself, you forgive, you let go, and you don't really have to do anything. You're just like, I'm perfectly fine just as I am in this moment, right? Nothing has to change, nothing has to be different. So that's where my book, Peace Under All Circumstances, comes from, right? Like no
You have
matter
the best book titles. Your book
I
titles
really
are so
like
good.
this.
I was like, man, that's like, he definitely downloaded that one. I was like, that's the one. That's a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Yeah, I like that title as well. And my other book titles I do like too. Thank you. But yeah, just why can't you be at peace all the time? Because essentially you are at peace. I think people just don't realize how important it is to prioritize that, right? That really, like in core transformation, we say, why do you want that? Why do you want that? And eventually we all just want to be at peace. We all just want to be in that space of love. So thank you. I was going to ask for closing words of wisdom, but I think you just gave it
Can
to
I
us.
actually
So
share one thing?
yeah,
I'll
this would
keep
be
it like
closing
under
words of
30
wisdom.
seconds.
Go for it. Yeah,
Yeah, because it's just tying into what you said. It's
definitely.
again like what my dad said, we don't have the knowledge or power sometimes to do better.
Mm-hmm.
We're stuck like that, and we want to choose peace, but we don't feel like it. We don't have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So step one is accept. Step two, if you can accept, if you can't, whatever. If you
Yeah.
want to feel that way, but you can't, you ask. I know it's very
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Hicks, but it's true. I say that. I said that about somebody I was having a real beef with. And it took me like
Mm-hmm.
a year to really, truly be able to cycle around no matter what state I was in and not have any charge. It took 1 year with
Uh-huh.
this person. And so I even said, I said to Spirit, I said, look, I don't want to feel like this towards this person, but honestly, I feel so validated because they're really XYZ.
Yeah.
And but I would like to feel
Mm-hmm.
another way. Can you help me feel like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Was it overnight? Maybe not. I don't know. I wasn't like keeping track, but within a few months, it was resolved completely. And all I
Yeah.
did was ask because they said I did everything I could and it was just beyond me.
Yeah.
And so that's where Spirit's like, all we want you to do is just give it your all. And if you can't,
Mhm.
just ask us. We'll take care of it. We got you.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's the beautiful reminder in this whole discussion that we're not alone, that spirit is real, God is real, love is real, peace is real. And if you're not feeling it, just ask. Because of course, Miracle says God doesn't wait upon, or love doesn't wait upon time, it waits upon invitation. Right. And a
Love
simple
that
ask,
line.
like, help me. I don't want this anymore. Let something shift. And yet sometimes we don't ask for the right thing because we manifest something negatively, like even a negative emotion. We say, God, get rid of this fear. And actually, A Course in Miracles says spirit won't get rid of the fear because you made it. And it would go against a fundamental law that you can't ask for spirit to get rid of something you made because we honor what you're manifesting. Instead, ask to get rid of the source of what you're doing, the thinking, essentially, right? So, what am I doing mentally that's causing this negative feeling or this negative experience? Spirit, help me to get rid of that. As soon as we invite higher, wiser mind into our mind to correct our thinking, my experience is like you. It's like a year I couldn't get rid of this mental pattern. As soon as we ask spirit to come in to get rid of it, we create the invitation for it to occur. So I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Manika.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So yes, you're going through our training to kind of synthesize all of your knowledge, but you already do hypnotherapy and Akashic record readings and massage and whatnot. So tell us if somebody's interested in working with you, how would they find you?
Yeah, I don't do massage anymore. I'm mostly all online, but if people are interested, they can visit me at kirabel.com. That's KIRA, V as in victory, ELL.com. And I offer services, yeah, readings, coaching, and hypnotherapy.
Awesome. You did an Akashic Records reading for me, which I really enjoyed. So I do
That
highly
was fun.
recommend people to, yeah, spend some time with you. And like I said, it's just wonderful to be in someone's energy who's psychic, who's intuitive, who's connected spiritually.
Well,
So
thank you,
yeah,
Matthew.
glad people got to put their attention on you today and hopefully be blessed from that.
Right back at
And
you.
yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll just keep doing the good work. So
Okay,
thank you, Monica. I appreciate you being here with me.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matthew.